Okay, so welcome to the summer edition of my Emotions Clinic. I am Anissa Lewis and I am a positive parenting coach. I am here to help you and your family through any bump in the road because I'm passionate about helping you to raise happy and confident children, no matter what is going on for you. I think another important fact that you need to know about me is that I'm a mum myself. I've got a 17-year-old who absolutely amazing, a wonderful child, but we have been through our trials and tribulations and we're still going through them at the moment. So I think what I really uh, pride myself on is probably a strong word there, but everything I suggest is because I have tried it with either clients, with my own child, and I know that it works. I know that if we persevere, we will achieve change. Some of you who are friends who are just coming back for a top up perhaps of the clinic, it's wonderful to have you here. And if you're here for the first time, thank you so much for giving me half an hour of your day, of your week in the lead up to the summer. I know time is precious, so I do not take it for granted. So thank you very much. So what I will say is that this is a very general emotions talk. There are going to be things that are very specific to you and your family and your circumstances, which I cannot obviously cover in this talk. And if that is the case, then please, please, please reach out. Email me, book a session in my diary to for us to either have a coaching session or a quick chat to see if I'm the right person for you to work with. Because sadly, as parents, one size does not fit all the time. However, I will say also that the tips I'm going to give you are really useful, powerful, and they do work. Okay, so I think where we'll start is that emotions are normal and emotions are healthy. We want our children to experience emotions. I think we are very quick as a society and as possibly parents to try and diminish what our children are feeling. And when you're dealing with a seventh tantrum for the day and you've just had enough, I absolutely get it. But actually, I want us to be curious about why that tantrum is occurring, why they are being deliberately defiant, why there's tantrums at bedtime. And actually, that is the tip of the iceberg. Emotions and behavior is communication. So, what is that communication teaching us or allowing us as parents to, or carers, or staff in a school, or wherever you find yourself, a step parent role as well? What is that information giving us in order that we can readjust what we're doing as the adult in the relationship to help that child? So, emotions are the tip of the iceberg. It is never about whatever it is that has caused the big emotion. And I would also say at this time of year, with in the Northern Hemisphere, where our terms are all coming to an end, that there is a lot going on for your children under the surface. So it's not just about being tired, it's about being worried about transitioning up to the next year, change of teacher, perhaps mix-ups of classes, starting school for the first time, maybe ending school and going off onto their adventures of their next steps. So there is a lot of stuff going on and they are absolutely exhausted. So my advice to you is to try and take things out of the diary, try and perhaps not feel so guilty when they're watching more TV or on their game a little bit more than they usually would be. You can claw that back, but actually, is it more important right now that emotional regulation is in your life so you are not dealing with so many fireworks that are erupting in your day? Okay, I think something we need to sort of factor in is that and it might be to one of the points you actually mentioned here is actually, are our children displaying these big emotions, these behaviors, because it gets them attention? Fighting with their brother or sister means that mum or dad swoop in and deal with it. Now, our children want our attention. They want our attention for many, many different reasons. And our job is to feed the right kind of attention because they will get our attention for any reason, negative or positive. So let's try and catch them being good rather than having to swoop in and deal with what's going on. Sometimes also we step in a little bit too soon when we're dealing with emotions. Actually, they just need to let it bubble out. They need to shout, they need to stamp, they need to do whatever they're doing, and then they move on. And that's okay. And that's great. And we can just, they dealt with it themselves, they regulated it themselves. Um, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the brain. So here is my lovely brain, which I asked for Christmas. Oopsie daisy. And so here is your brain. And when your children are displaying their big emotions, they are coming from down here next to the brain stem, which is your primitive brain. What we really want them to be is up here in their thinking brain. So the primitive brain is responsible for fight, flight, or freeze. And so your children, when they are in those red mist moments, when they are being defiant, when they are trying to grab your attention, when they're having a reaction to something, it is most likely that they're in their primitive brain and they're in fight, flight, or freeze. What we want to do is to get them from their primitive brain back up into their thinking brain. So dealing with your children, other than offering them a hug, making sure they are safe, using some regulation tools to get them to calm down, this is not the time when they're in their primitive brain to give them a shouting, I was going to say exercise, but that's not right, to shout at them, to lecture them, to list all the things that are going wrong in life. That can happen later when they're back up, not the shouting perhaps, but back up in their thinking brain. Please excuse me. So one way we can get them back into their thinking brain is the 3 Ps: positive thinking, positive interaction, and positive activity. Now, think about when you are full of emotions and feelings, and someone says to you, "You're going to be okay. Just think more positively, take a deep breath." What are you likely to do in this situation? The same is probably true of your children. So I would say encouraging them out of their primitive brain and into their thinking brain by asking them to think positively, you're probably likely to have more emotion to deal with. So I would go in with an activity such as chatting about something to do with their day, trying to hook them into a conversation that they're interested in, perhaps getting some fidgets out or a puzzle, or just leading them away from the space they were in to another safer place, getting them moving physically, running up and down stairs, jumping on the trampoline, taking them out for a bike ride is a really good thing. Positive conversation is really good as well. You know, I can see you're upset. I understand this is really tough for you right now. What can I do to help you? Can I give you a hug? Shall I just sit here with you? So actually don't give your children too many choices in these scenarios. We want to get them back up into their primitive brain, where we can either decide that we're just going to let that emotion slide, or calmly, and when everybody is in their right place, we can say, "What was all that about? That's not okay, the way you were treating me. That's not respectful. That's not how we treat people," or however you is appropriate for whatever you are dealing with in that scenario. So the other thing our children may rebel against, which might bring us about to emotions, is trying to control their world. So are you a helicopter parent who is trying to, for all of the right reasons, do everything for your child so that they don't have to worry about things? Or are you a bit like an Australian that's so late? I'm an Australian, by the way, so I can speak from authority. We're quite laid back, and actually you're too laid back, you're too horizontal, and therefore the control is in different places. So what aspects of your child's life is it appropriate for them to control, and what part is it you are trying to control without hearing their voice? So we can strike a balance. We can try and hear their thoughts and their feelings. Again, age dependent. This works probably much better with our tweens and teens than it does with the 3-year-olds. However, even a 3-year-old can have an opinion on something. So have a think about attention and have a think about control. Does any of this resonate for you, those people who are listening live? If you are listening on the replay, send me an email at hello@anisalewis.com if it is resonating with you. But if this is resonating with you, let me know in the chat box. Give me an emoji or something like that, because it's quite strange talking to myself for half an hour. So I would really, really appreciate some feedback. Okay, so let's think about our kids' emotions. Emotions are really hard. They're very, very abstract concepts. So actually, happiness and sadness, yes, they can probably gauge that. But anger, frustration, joy, excitement, how is that showing up in the body? So the more we can talk about these things with our kids, the more that they can understand and process these really big abstract thoughts. So practical ways you can do that is, I've got my goodie bag over here on the side. So I have got a printout of a feelings wheel, which again, this is quite a nice one for older children, and we can just identify that actually, although we're happy, that actually is quite a lot of other emotions going on there as well. I've also got some feeling cards, which are quite nice. So you can lay the feeling cards out in front of you, in front of your child, and they can start picking things that relate to them. These ones are quite nice. They're by Able and the Label, and they have got bits on the back as well, affirmations on the back as well. So that's quite nice. So these actually are the affirmation cards, but I do have feeling cards from the same company. So yeah, anything we can do that allows our children to talk about feelings and you identifying feelings in multiple scenarios. Obviously, books are very good here as well. I think it's also quite nice for you to talk about your feelings. So actually, I have had a frustrating day. I'm feeling very overwhelmed with work. Obviously, go in with age appropriate information, go in with being able to start a conversation with your children about it. But I think our children put us up on quite a pedestal, and therefore it's really tricky for them to see. Oh, no, it's not tricky. It's important for them to see that we are also processing some big stuff right now. So I would be really within my remit to say to my daughter, you know what, it's quite a lot this week. I'm getting ready for your residential trip next week. I'm also trying to sort out my work and my schedule for the summer. I'm juggling a lot of things going on in my head, and it's a little bit overwhelming. But to have these conversations means that we're opening up doorways to demonstrate and role model how we are then dealing with these emotions. Can, ooh, sorry, I'm just reading comments, so apologies, I got a bit distracted, probably slightly ADHD if I'm honest, and I'm like this. Okay, a great way that we can do, if you are worried about something that's going on for your child and if you want to understand it better, so we're going to put up that curiosity radar. We want to understand what's going on. We want to go in without judgment. We want to just be curious. But actually, if the emotions are still coming up and you can't find a pattern or it's not particularly obvious, I really suggest tracking the emotion with an emotion thermometer. And this is very private. This is just for you and your partner, or just for you. This is not to be shared outside of your family circle. But it's okay. My child had a reaction to something at dinner time that was said. Is that a 10 out of 10 eruption, or was it just a little blip on the Richter scale? Am I approaching this differently because I'm really tired and I'm triggered by something that my child is doing? And then you can also put a little bit of information next to it. So over dinner, reacted to this, a 2 out of 10, calmed down quite quickly. And then over a week, you can start to see patterns. You can start to see where you perhaps, maybe there's trigger points with transitioning between activities. Maybe it's mornings, maybe it's bedtimes, like someone mentioned in the chat. And that's where we can go in then and be really specific and strategic with the tools and things that we're going to use to help our children. I am very much about how can we prevent or lessen having to correct our children. So we're actually stepping in 2 or 3 steps earlier so that we don't have to come in and deal with the emotion that is erupting and all the rest of it. How can we connect before we have to correct? That is sort of a little saying that I really love to be buzzing around in your head over the summer. How can I connect with my child before I have to correct them? How can I connect with my child so I don't have to correct them? Things are just swimming along quite nicely. And so if you've heard me talk before, I love talking about love languages. I don't have time to go into depth in detail today, but if love languages is something that might appeal to you, there is lots of stuff out there on the internet. You can even do a love languages quiz. But in a nutshell, a psychologist in the States realized through research that there are many different ways that people like to receive love. And if you can tune in to one of those ways, whether it's physical touch, words of affirmations, quality time, gifts, or service, then your child is much more likely to respond in a different way because you are tuning into how they need to be connected with. So if that's something that appeals, as I said, go out and do some Googling on that, or come back to me and I can send you some bits and pieces on that. Okay, I did hint at this earlier, but I just want to touch on it again. How you react in a situation or where you are at or identifying your triggers is really, really important because actually sometimes the way we react to a child has actually got nothing to do with the child themselves. It's something that's been triggered in us. Perhaps it's a childhood trauma, perhaps it's a memory, perhaps it's something to do with something that you are navigating right now, or perhaps you're just tired because let's face it, parenting is really, really tiring. And in fact, I was talking to a wonderful, wonderful client yesterday, and they were just saying, you know what, I'm absolutely exhausted, juggling this, juggling that, work's ramping up when it should be ramping down. And that's not the right word, is it? Revving down? No. Anyway, coming down. And she says, I just don't have the capacity to be the consistent person that I was 3 months ago now. Cut yourself some slack. But it's important to not feel guilty because I'm not about guilt. It's about, again, being curious. What can I do that's maybe something just for me? What can I do to rest and get some more sleep? What can I do to ask for some help in this situation, which means I'm not so overwhelmed from what is going on. So identifying your triggers and working and being curious about what you can do to support yourself is really, I would say, probably the first thing we need to do when we're helping our children navigate their emotions. Okay, let's get into some ideas because we've got 8 minutes before the end, and I want to make sure I've gone back up and made sure I've answered some of the questions that you asked right at the very beginning. So breathing is a really, really good one when we are getting our children to calm down because breathing is something that they will take with them everywhere they go. They're not going to forget to take their breath with them. And so anything we can do to just get them to breathe in through the nose and back out through the mouth sends messages to the body to calm down naturally. It's probably not the first suggestion I would go in with if your children are experiencing really big emotions, but as you can see the glimmers of the calm coming in, it's a really nice one to introduce. You can use bubbles, breathing in through your nose and out on the bubble wand to get it out. You can do hand breathing, so breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, like that. There's boxes, there's lots of other ways we can introduce the concept of breathing. Another one I quite like is practicing breathing in bed at night. So you lie them down, you put something on their belly. Even a teenager can do this, and actually they quite enjoy it. Sometimes we think that our teenagers are too old for such things, and they're really, really not. You know, bring some fun into how they're navigating their emotions as well. But anyway, get them to lie down, put a rubber duck or a lightweight toy on their belly. And what we want them to do is breathe in through their nose and out through their mouth. And as they are breathing in and out, their belly should be going up and down, not their chest, because we want to get them from their chest, breathing down into their belly where they're really, really going to be calm. A nice one also to introduce, again, probably more for the tweens and teens, is problem solving. So we can see you're experiencing these big emotions. We know that the end of the school year is really tough for you. What can we do to help? And actually part of this process is very simply brainstorming all of the ideas. Silly ones, practical ones, ones that are going to cost you £1,000,000, whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. It all goes down in your brainstorm. And then you say, okay, well, let's think about this practically. I don't have the money to take you on a vacation today, so that's not going to happen. But we can introduce quiet time when you get in from school, or I can take you out of some of your clubs and activities so that you've got some more time for downtime, for whatever it is. But again, that's going to be situational, but encourage problem solving with your children, encourage being part of the problem solving with your children. Find things that actually boost moods, such as, I don't know what's going to boost a mood for your children, but movement is always quite good. Snuggling time is quite good. Driving and getting an ice cream when you wouldn't normally drive and get an ice cream is, how can we build in mood boosting when the mood is actually quite heavy, or as a preventative for the mood getting quite heavy? I think creating some sort of toolkit that helps your child when they are in those emotional states. So rather than sending them to their room, you keep them in a time in rather than a time out. And that could be that you have some mindful coloring, you have some nice books, you have fidgets. So I've got, this is one I use with the kids that I work with. I've just got fidgets in here, but I could add anything. I could add some aromatherapy. I could add some bubble wrap to pop. I could add some coloring. I could add Play-Doh. Play-Doh is a really good one, even for older children. I know, yeah, sometimes they just need to be young, but it's getting an emotional toolkit that you can just pull out at a moment, which is again one of those P's, those positive activities that we can shift the mood by just doing something mindful that brings them back to the present moment. When you're out and about and emotions are running high, um, you can have a code word that sort of maybe is when I say bananas, that means things are getting escalating and we need to do something a little bit differently. So it's not when the emotion has actually happened, it's more okay, you're being defiant. I can see that this is going to end badly. Let's use the word bananas because we both know what bananas mean. And you can have any word you like. That's the word, that's our code word in our house. And it just means that we do something different, or we shift our energy, or we move to a different room, or we go outside. So there is something else that can happen. Or when you're out and about, it just means that actually maybe you go back to the car for some 5 minutes of quiet time. It doesn't matter. But a lovely one is actually just to say to your children, look around right now and tell me 5 red things that you can see, 4 sounds you can hear. What are 3 things you can touch? Can you smell anything? And so actually what we're doing is we're getting them to be mindfully present in the moment, but using their senses to help them navigate the emotion. And so I would also, just thinking about the toolkit, is have a mini version in your handbag or in the back of the car or somewhere that means you can grab it at any point and it's there with you. Like when you go to a restaurant or whatever, you've just got something that is going to be setting you up for success and helping you through some of these emotions. So I say this every time I do a clinic. I could literally talk about some of this stuff for hours, but I'm very conscious of the time. And so what I would like you to do is in the comments, can you let me know if something's resonated for you, something you want to go away and think about, something that maybe you're going to try and put into action over the summer months to do with how you support your child's emotions. It's all to do with how we can regulate their emotions. How can we connect with them? How can we feed their need for connection and attention in a positive way so that actually these emotions don't come up? How can we give them a little bit more control over their world if that's something that they are really, really wanting? So someone's commenting here. Again, if you're listening on the replay, please just let me know on an email if something's really resonated with you. I would love to hear from you. So we have got more downtime, mini toolkit and using the senses, emotional temperature gauge, emotional toolkit, the code words so she can start to recognize her emotions are spiraling. These are all fantastic. Keep those comments coming. I'm just going to scroll back up to where you gave. Okay, so the person who said tips to diffuse high emotions and calm everybody down. I think we've covered a few of those things in our in some of the suggestions that I've made. If I've not, please come back to me. Dealing with child's emotions when they express them by saying lots of mean things to all the family. I would say this one is all about attention because they know if they say mean things to all the family, somebody is going to reply. Somebody is going to step in and therefore feeding their need for attention. What I would also say with this one is it's probably secondary behavior. There's something else going on that they can't communicate, they can't articulate, but they know their needs will be met if they start saying horrid things. And so it might be simply you just have a catchphrase that's something like, in our house we show respect. Right now that's not happening. I'm going to be in the kitchen when you're ready to show respect. And you just walk away as long as it is safe to do so and your child is of an age where that is appropriate. But I would say that one is very much around attention. Bedtime tantrums, again, probably without knowing lots of information, I would say that one possibly is you have missed their tiredness window, or they haven't had enough connection with you during the day, and actually they need you at the bedtime for their emotional support. But if the person making that comment would like to come back to me, then please do, because I can talk more detail about that one. General dealing with an increase in defiance lately. Again, we've talked about lots of bits that would help with defiance, but it could be along that need for control. What aspects of your child's life can they control? What aspects can we use? Maybe some open-ended questions rather than a waggly finger and telling your child what they're doing. What would you like to choose to do in this situation? And just give them two choices. Or tell me your thoughts on this, or something like that. So yeah. Routines we haven't really touched on, but what I will say very briefly on routines is, could you create a summer rhythm? Could you create it, even if it changes weekly, and you discuss it with your family and you look at what's coming up? Because children do thrive on routines, they thrive on boundaries. And so even though the summer is not there, even if you're traveling, you can still get some sort of rhythm, like we're going to get up and we're going to get dressed, we're then going to go and have our breakfast, we're then going to go out and explore, or we're going to have some quiet time, or we're going to do some learning, or whatever it is that is a priority for you over the summer. You can create a summer rhythm. And then refusal to do activities. Now that one's an interesting one. Refusal. Yeah, yeah, I'm just not doing that. So again, is that defiance? Is that because we've asked them to do something when they've just sat down to relax? Is it because they want attention? Is it down to control? That is very much tip of the iceberg, and I would like to be delving deeper into why are they refusing to do it? What is going on around that? Okay, we've got some more takeaways from today. I do understand I've run like a couple of minutes over, so I can only apologize for that. So we've got code words to recognize when the emotions are spiraling, the feeling wheel, brainstorming exercise over summer. I love it. The more you can hear your kid's voice, not so that they can control a situation, but so they feel they've got a say and you come up with a plan together, the better things are going to be. Okay, so connect rather than correct, and be a bit more flexible with screen time and making sure they have downtime. So these are all amazing, amazing takeaways. And if you are listening on the replay, please do reach out and let me know what your takeaways are. I'd love to hear it. But until then, we are going to take a pause now with our clinics. They will start back up in September, and you'll get some more information about that soon. If you're feeling that perhaps you do want a bit more support over the summer, I have got some summer support programs in place. I've got a toolkit, I've got a pop-up group where we're going to be supporting each other, and then I've also got something called Telegram, which is like a WhatsApp communication where I can be the parenting coach in your pocket for the entire summer. But it's all very much what I would call light touch. It's not about trying to make you juggle more things. It's not trying about making you have to be busier than you already are. It's actually just the light touch which are going to get you through the summer in a more inspiring and empowering way, rather than just waiting for your kids to get back to school. So if that's something that of interest, then please do reach out. But until then, have an amazing summer, be safe, and do spread the word about these clinics, because that would mean the world to me to be able to reach more parents. Bye. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again to those new people who joined us today. Much appreciated. Um, Keep safe, have a great summer, and reach out if I can help. Bye-bye.